I get to coach and teach EOS into the growing team at 90 and about a half dozen other companies. So I love to be in teacher mode, right, Christine?
You're great at it too. So we're
Oh,
happy
thank
to
you
have
very much.
all the new people we're
My
bringing on board.
professorial voice, excellent.
All right. And I am recording the session. I completely forgot to start at the very beginning, but we'll start from now. And this is the meat and potatoes. So who cares about the intro, right? When you're re-recording.
Here we go. Yeah, this is the important stuff.
Yeah. All right. But Jim, go ahead and keep talking us through the meeting pulse a little bit.
So we know that it's one of those really, the 6 key components in the traction component. And one of the first things we teach during Focus Day is having a great meeting. And the level 10 meeting, of course, is the real cornerstone of that. When people teach themselves how to implement EOS, it's one of the first things they say, oh my God, this changes my life. But because we know a great meeting can help us get traction, accountability, communication, team health. So much is packed into having great meetings and to stop having bad meetings. It's both of those things. So it really helps everybody stay together, and realign on a regular basis. I mean, a good meeting does that as opposed to just waste everybody's time, and gets everyone right back to focus, back to in those little bitty pulses, and making sure we're making progress week by week towards completing our quarterly goals. That's why we want you to put all of those milestones in your rocks. So you're making goals, those things happen week over week, and just so you know when you're off track. So it helps us keep us from procrastination, the thing we all get, we all are cursed with. So we know these, we plan in these 90-day cycles, but we need to have that weekly meeting to keep us on track, meeting towards those goals. But having a once a week meeting that's really effective keeps us that heartbeat running, and also helps us eliminate all those ad hoc meetings during the week that really chew into time, because everyone gets the idea of, hey, let's talk about that at the next L10. Let's just talk about it then. So everyone gets a sense of what's getting done, right? So I get to know when we have our level 10 every Monday for 90. Christine gets to hear about what I'm doing and my team's doing, and I get to hear about what she and her team are doing. This have that developing that trust and alignment around what's going on. We're all making progress, and that kind of having a great cadence and a great process for getting to that level of trust makes us more efficient and gives us peace of mind, so we can actually just focus our attention on what really matters. When we teach EOS, we teach the level 10 meeting in the first day, and it's the first thing we make people go do out on their own. So we say, hey, we've taught you all these things. We're going to go over them again at Vision Building 1, Vision Building 2, but you're going to start doing level 10s right now. And having 90 as a way of staying on course with their level 10s, Christine, I got to tell you, makes so much difference. All my clients are on 90, and it's really about, that's how we keep people really on track, bringing all those pieces together. So everyone really knows what each other are doing. They get used to reporting to each other in an appropriate way, and really focusing energies and solving problems as opposed to trying to maneuver an ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, especially when you think about outside of just the meeting time, being able to go in and refresher, like, what did we talk about? What did I take on? And having it all in one place is so nice.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this as we go through it. I mean, as a coach too, it's so important because I can watch how my clients are doing in their L10s. I don't have to call them up and ask them and get their, undoubtedly biased opinion. I'm actually looking at their L10s, the timings of all those elements and how they're rating them. And I get to know exactly how to coach them forward. And when they're drowning, I just have to call them up and bail them out. Avoiding ad hoc meetings, my friends, this is one of the best things that comes out of this. When you run a good L10 meeting, if you focus on mastery of the level 10 meeting, you will have less and less and less people trying to have little side meetings on a regular basis. Those still can happen. You still want to have the same page every once in a while, but it gives everyone the chance to, and I'll make sure
I just turned mine off. I was like, oh, I don't think I silenced my phone either.
Yeah, here we go. Thank you, iPhone. It helps everybody just realize that there's a great, really efficient and effective meeting that I can leave most things to, so not that, hey, couldn't this have been an email? Couldn't we handle this in the L10 as opposed to trying to work it out right now? So everyone can stay focused and really get to that place where we all yearn for being able to stay in the what's urgent and important. I got to tell you, Christine, I've told Mark and or Chris so many times, make it an issue. Okay, just make it an issue. Oh, but we want to talk about it now. I know, make it an issue, please. We'll talk about it when it's important, and we'll make it a long-term issue because you're waiting for when pigs can fly, and I don't think we're ready for that. It's a next quarter problem. All right.
All
So there
good.
you go. So ask questions as you pose questions about the software. We'll solve those. But certainly, if you got questions on how to apply the software to what's going on in your level 10 meetings, mastery of level 10 is so important, Michelle and Christine. So I think it's critically important. We do everything we can to help people get there.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted, before I dove into 90 and talked about the software side of things, that having you go over some of those basic concepts is really helpful, because it helps even explain like why we set things up a certain way or why they work a certain way, just by having that context ahead of time. So in 90, if you guys already have an account, you probably already know meetings page here. Jim mentioned a couple different ones. So we do have the level 10 meeting. So that's what you're doing most frequently every single week, every team. But you can run a quarterly, annual, or even your focus day and vision building days in this other section. So all of those are options. We're going to go over the level 10 specifically today. But in future webinars or one-on-one, happy to go through these other meeting types as well. So on this page, you'll see a couple things. If you've got any active meetings that you can just jump back into, if you've got any headlines that are coming up in the next meeting, and then you've got your list of past meetings here. So this is a great look back at how much time you spent in each section, the items that you talked about, and you can even resend the recap email down here as well for each one of those. But I will go ahead and start a new meeting. In the left-hand side, we've got our timer already going. The segue is the one section that's blank. It's really just meant for you guys to go around, share that personal, professional good news. And then as soon as you move into data, you've got it set up where it's automatically pulling in your scorecard. So,
and Christine, I might say that it's become best practice, even within 90, to not even show screen during the segue. Like, look at everyone's faces. You know, most of you are doing level 10 meetings now that are really about faces anyway. But even if you're in the same room, don't even turn the screen on yet. Just like let everyone look at each other, and because it's that part is really about team health and connecting and being in the moment, working on the business, not in the business. So let it really be there. There's nothing there for a reason, because we don't want anything there. Just focus on each other.
Definitely agree. And once you get into the bulk of the meeting, all of these sections are 5 minutes. Jim, do you want to speak to that a little bit about why it's really like so short when it feels like there's so much data to go through?
You know, this is one of the things when people have trouble with their level 10 meetings, this is the hardest part, is they want to look at these things and say, yeah, I've got an explanation for that. And then they want to start talking about it. But what we really want you to do is say, okay, yeah, make that an issue. Drop it to the bottom. That's what I teach all my clients to say, Christine, drop it to the bottom. I make them practice it every meeting I get them. Okay, everybody together, say, drop it to the bottom. Because the point of that is, hey, if I've got some things to say about that, that's great. But let's consider that time at the right priority in the right context. So we just want to capture all of the issues as we go through these things, scrape them out, seek out all the things we might talk about, drop it to the bottom. Now, best practice is that anything that's been off for a while, well, and when we start, when my clients first started doing L10s, any number that's not at target, that is below the goal, drop it to the bottom. Make sure you talk about it. Over time, you get to the place where you go 2 or 3 weeks before you absolutely have to drop it to the bottom. But you can see the red, yellow, green next to those numbers. It should be an indicator of hey, it's red, drop it to the bottom. That should be your natural recourse there. If it's yellow, hey, is there an issue there we should talk about? Because we'd like to talk about it now if we can solve it.
Right.
Yeah, drop it to the bottom and we'll talk about it in due course.
Yeah, and it's so easy within here. You know, if you do see something that's off track and you want to talk about it, you can use the red, yellow, green, which tells you based on the last 3 weeks how you're doing, or just over here if you've hit that individual week or not. And so with any of these, when you right click, you can make it an issue, and it does pull in a bunch of the context for you. So you'll see that same thing as we go to rocks and headlines and to-dos. It all has that same right click, make it an issue, and then it'll pull in any of the details that are already associated with that item. So it's really,
and if you added descriptions of what that number is meant to be, because that quite often that's it, right, Christine? I know even in our meetings,
yeah,
hey, what does that number really mean? Is that number really appropriate? Is that really the right measurement anymore? So
yeah,
the more you add descriptions inside the measurables themselves, those will drop to the bottom too, and it just makes your IDS that much simpler.
definitely. So hopefully that's the main thing you're doing in the data section, is just reviewing your numbers and then dropping things down, because the numbers can be filled in before the meeting even starts. So don't waste time going in and clicking through these every single week. Go ahead and just make issues, even if a number is not there and it should have been there.
In purity, the integrator should be making sure everyone's got their numbers in ahead of the meeting. Back when we used to do this on paper, they would have had them all collected and passed out for that meeting. So stay with that. Don't use your valuable 90 minutes in your level 10 to fill out forms, man. Just get that stuff figured out, so when you're in there, you're focused on the things that are most important, which isn't completing your filling in your measurables.
Definitely. Once you get to rocks, really the same concept. If something's off track, you want to talk about it, all of these you can right click on, make it an issue. It's going to pull in the details that are associated with the item. So if you want to see those, just click on it and the information should be over to the right hand side.
Best practice for my clients, I'm first teaching L10 meetings, by the way. I mean, first of all, that they're going to have full descriptions, because I force all my clients to really write it out and capture notes in there in great detail, and then add milestones. And I really hammer on them to add, especially when they're starting out, your first rocks, 13 milestones, my friend. Don't shortchange that. Think about 13 things that have to get done, and give them dates each of the weeks that coming forward. So just give yourself that anti-procrastination, anti-ad hocery tool set that they have built in here. And the thing is, when I say do the review, I have them click on every one as we go down, not only so the person who owns the rock can say on track, off track, but also so their friends that love them in the room can say, hey, is that really on track, man?
Right.
Right. Don't let your friends get off track.
Yeah.
Friends don't let friends get off track without saying something.
This is a great accountability mechanism. So if you don't have it turned on in your account quite yet, go up to the settings button on your rocks page and you can turn it on right here. And the other thing to really drive that accountability that Jim was mentioning, if your milestone is not done within 7 days of that due date that you guys set up, you can toggle this on and make sure that those automatically become to-dos. So not only is it going to be listed on your rock, listed on that person's My 90 page, but if it's still not done, it's going to show up on the to-do list. So you have that extra checkpoint there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Take advantage of all the tools there to help you with accountability. It's hard. So.
All right. And then getting into headlines, this is another one. Go ahead and add them before the meeting starts. So don't worry about doing this during the meeting. You still can. So if there's anything we forgot, we can go ahead and add it to the list. It's so-and-so's birthday. We'll put that on here.
I get a lot of questions, Christine, about what goes in here, and there's a lot of things that can go in there. When we teach it, we talk about news about employees or news about clients. But generally what we're trying to do here is make sure that we've got great communication on the things that are important for the organization that don't fit into these other categories. So birthdays are a great call out, personal achievements. Oh, someone had a baby, someone just got a degree, someone ran a marathon. Hey, here's a customer who's going through a tough time. And then you might IDS that. You might get dropped to the bottom. Hey, this customer just lost a big contract. Well, it could have an impact on you. Drop it to the bottom, make it an issue, and talk about it so you can maybe be a good partner to those people. So the other great thing about this thing is the cascading, Christine, because making sure that what happens with the leadership team can happen at the rest of the level 10 meetings as well.
Yeah, exactly. So for a new hire, let's say we announce it in this meeting and we say, well, we better let the other teams know about this person or whatever's going on. When you click Cascade, it'll create a cascading message for you with all the details that were in that headline. And then you choose what teams you want it to go to. So if we want finance and marketing to know about this, we'll check those off. Then we'll go ahead and save it. And then it'll pop up in those teams' level 10 meetings in the section right here that would say cascading messages and show them exactly where it came from.
It's great stuff. And the other one there, core value callouts.
Yeah, that's another good one for headlines. Yeah.
Make your core value callouts resonate throughout the land. Everyone in the organization, when you do a core value callout, even if you do it at 2 tiers down at that level 10 meeting, cascade it back up to the leadership team. Let them all know, because we all want to recognize people that are really doing things that represent our core values, and everyone loves to see that. And that's a great way to instill your culture in the rest of the organization.
Definitely celebrate those achievements.
Absolutely.
To-dos, we can check things off during the week. So I'm always encouraging people, add your measurables, check off the to-dos if you get them done, take notes on your rocks. And that way, when you get into this meeting time, it can be really efficient with reviewing, hey, what's not been done? What do we need to talk about? So in a situation like this, if McGregor didn't get this to-do done by the due date, we see an overdue marker, he can either say, you know what, I just need an extra week, go ahead and bump it back. Or we can say, you know what, it's been bumped back 5 times. We need to figure out what the blocker is here. We need to figure out what the issue is. So again, another instance where you can go ahead and drop it down.
Yeah, and it's a remember, everybody, you're supposed to be getting 90% of your to-dos done every week. That's that don't and if you're not, you get to be able to see how many you're doing, your completion rate.
Yeah.
It's in the numbers, my friend. It's not, you can give yourself excuses all the time, and occasionally things happen. We love each other. We'll take care of each other. We'll give each other the assume positive intent. But if you're not getting there, there's a reason behind it. Listen to that. Be honor the fact that you're not making your numbers and do something about it. Make it an issue.
Yeah, and you can always check your completion percentage up here in the top right if you just hover there. And the really nice thing is it gives you a percentage based on what you've already done, not based on what is upcoming. So my completion rate 75% because I'm done with everything from today previously, but I know I do have more to-dos to get done. So it gives you a pretty accurate representation of what that should be.
That's pretty smart, Christine.
We try. That was actually some good client feedback that came in too. So
I love that.
We did make the adjustment after some suggestions. So if there's anything like that where you guys use the system a certain way, we're always taking that feedback and trying to implement it into the system.
Terrific.
Now, when we get to IDS, main thing you're doing here is obviously, first off, are there any new issues to add to the list? So go ahead and use the create button. Whenever that happens, you want to add some new ones. Next, you'll prioritize. So we've got to figure out what the top 3 are, and 90 gives you a couple different ways to do that. We're adding more. First one is just dragging and dropping these around so you can move them around like this. If you guys want to look at your issues in a 3-column layout like this, it's just these 2 buttons over here to the right. So that just gives you a list view versus a column view. So this is really helpful if you've got a lot of issues that you want to see at one time. So drag and drop. You can right click and move things to the top or the bottom of the list, or you can use this 1, 2, 3 sort. So when you click on this button, it lets you click on the title of the issues where we can say, all right, we want to solve 11, 7, and 20. And then those will auto sort to the top of the list when we're ready to go. And then we're ready to open it up and start taking some notes, writing some details down about what we're actually IDSing on this issue.
And I want to call out, I know we've got a question on this, but I'll reiterate it a couple of times. It's critically important for the efficiency and effectiveness of your L10 meetings that you've got one person running the meeting and one person acting as scribe, right? The person that's running the meeting should not be the person typing in the software. Even when we were back on paper, back in the olden days, we would typically have somebody else managing the paperwork while someone's running the meeting. So don't pretend it should be one person, because you won't do a good job. You won't do a good job of either. You'll miss things. So pick somebody that's going to be the scribe for your software. And it's kind of an old term because you're not really scribing, they're typing and clicking.
Right. It's a great call out.
Great at the interface.
It's so helpful. Some companies that are newer decide, hey, let's rotate every week or every 2 weeks. So if you're trying to find the person who's really going to own that, but it is helpful for everybody to kind of get their hands in there and do a little bit, especially when you're at the beginning, just so you're really learning the meeting workflow and being a part of it and learning how to use the system well.
Yeah. There you go.
And the nice thing about taking notes in here and why I typically suggest it, I wouldn't write things down, word for word that people are saying, but it is nice to have some context in here because everything is searchable. So if you do want to go back through anything, either in the archive or on this current list, you can always search for it and it searches through everything that you type out within here. And then at the same time, when you end up solving this issue, there's probably going to be some sort of to-do action item out of it in order to get it off the list. So when you create a to-do, it does pull in the details that you've typed out. So whoever is getting assigned this to-do has all of the context of what we talked about during the solve session.
Yeah, and Michelle, you've got a couple, Christine, I'm sorry. You've got a couple of them in there. They have the numbers in front of them. There are a myriad of ways people have taken on to sort their issues, because a healthy issues list is a big issues list. And if you don't have any issues, it's because no one's being open and honest and sharing all their thoughts and feelings. So there should be lots of issues. And the other one is just this using numbers to sort. So there is no standard pure methodology for using numbers, but I know a lot of my clients use 5 as something that has to be talked about today. 4, emergencies, things that are holding up rocks and things like that. 4 is urgent and important. 3 is urgent but not important. 2, you just move on down.
Right.
1s and 2s typically end up being good candidates for just moving to long-term issues.
Yeah, and then with that, you can put the number in the front and then just do a quick title sort so you can get everything in order. So it's definitely a helpful way to even self-categorize, like, oh, I want to put this on the list, but it's fine if it doesn't get solved this week. I just want it on there for next week. Maybe I'll make it a 3. So that way you can kind of self-determine your own urgency, but then maybe you would see it on the list and say, oh no, that's definitely a 5. So it just kind of helps you guys collaborate a little bit easier.
That's right. Obviously, if it isn't about this quarter, it should move to long-term issues anyway. But if it's like, gosh, I don't need to talk about it, but it doesn't have to be this week, make it a 3. And then next week, maybe you bump it to a 5 and say, guys, now I need this. Now we're up against it. It is urgent and important. And Christine, we've had meetings like this where we've gotten all the way down to the 2s and say,
yeah, definitely. And with these issues, if it's not something that's getting marked as done because it got made into a to-do and it'll get archived, there's a couple other things that might happen. Like Jim said, if it's not important, maybe it needs to get moved to the long-term list. So you have that clock icon to move it. We've also got this Teams drop down. So maybe it needs to go to marketing to solve. It needs to go somewhere else to solve. So even if the owner of this issue isn't on that team, you can still send it there and they can pick up and decide who's going to own it.
And we do that all the time at 90. We'll talk about an issue with leadership team meeting and say, you know what, let's solve that at the data meeting or solve that at the engineering meeting, and it'll just cascade to there, and that's where it'll get solved.
Yeah. All right, and then once we're done, hit conclude. We can see all of the to-dos that are on our list, and then the new ones that were created during this meeting specifically are called out with that new tag next to it. We can see the cascading messages that we created. We can create new ones if we need to. So using the create button, if we need to add any new ones last minute, we can do that from scratch right there. And then when you rate the meeting, we added this shuffle button here in case you didn't want to have the same person go first each time. So it lets you just rearrange the users and then go through, everybody calls out their rating, and then you can finish up the meeting. And when you do finish, recap email automatically goes out unless you uncheck that. And then you also have the option to archive all your headlines, to-dos, and issues. So you don't have to individually do it on each page. All right. I think that takes us through a lot of the meeting details. A couple of the things that I didn't point out as we're going through this. One is the view tool option. So if you're talking about an issue and you're like, oh, it's something with an accountability chart seat and you want to pull up the accountability chart, you can do that real time within the meeting. So that's what this view tool button does. It lets you see the other tools. So no matter what section you're in, it's still highlighted. We're still counting time towards the conclude section, but I can view and work on something else at the same time. Then just click on the agenda item to get back to where you were. And then this show notes option lets you take notes free-form during the meeting. So these are sent out in the meeting recap email. It's not tied to a specific issue or a specific item. It just lets you take notes in this section. So a lot of times it happens on maybe segue. Somebody wants to write down what's going on with different people or with people's professional good news. Just kind of whatever the company, the team likes to do for that.
I like to talk about those as being the notes for the official biography that will someday be written of the visionary.
Perfect. Yes. Everybody should be documenting those for their own biographies.
That's right.
All right. So with that, I will head back to my presentation over here. You know what? One thing I didn't cover was customizing meeting.
Customization. Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't know if we've had any questions come in about it, but I feel like this is a pretty frequently asked one. Is if you don't stick to the typical level 10 structure, it usually happens on the leadership team where people like stick to this pretty tight, I would say. But then once you start getting down in your different departments, there's various reasons why, maybe IDS would only be 30 minutes, or instead of headlines, you want to pull up Salesforce and see new leads that came in. There's other options within here. So when I go to this settings icon, I can choose what team I want to customize. So maybe I want to customize marketing here, and we can say, we don't want to see this area. We want to add a new section, and it's going to be called, new leads, and we'll paste in a URL of a different site we want to see. So it lets you customize it either just like with a free text area or with actual other iframe that you're pulling into 90.
I like to say a lot of my clients use this, so even your example, so the sales team, you're looking at having a hot lead section, or, deals at risk or something like that. Have that part of the reporting section. Like, is there anything here we need to make an issue? You don't have to, if you can create issues from within that, but it doesn't pull that information directly. But it does give you a chance to review those things in that right setting. The other one is if people have, and I see this quite often, where they use the scorecard, but then they've got maybe a deeper dashboard they put right after that. That if there is a question about something on the there, but that before they want to get to IDS, they've got the dashboard to go look at it to determine whether it's really an issue or something else. So I've seen people add a lot of stuff to this from other web resources to be pulled in, and the other one is always, that next level 10 meeting is probably going to be shorter, and all the way down to the, if you're talking about people in the warehouse, if they're doing a level 10, it's going to be 30 minutes.
Right. I mean, because the level 10 by nature, it's to all get on the same page. And so with the leadership team, this is a very obvious format. But then once you start getting into those niche areas, it's like you guys are all working in a very specific area. So there might be things that you do need to review on a weekly basis. And you can always reset it to the default. So if I want to take this away and go back to normal, pretty easy to do that.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Now I'll go back to my deck.
Yeah.
I think I answered everything. So a couple of features that are coming soon. First one, we are testing it internally right now. So we'll release the beta probably in the next 2 weeks, I'm guessing. Just want to add a couple ease of use features. But right now, essentially a meeting works just like we just ran it. I start it as one person, I share my screen, everybody else follows my screen. What we're adding in is so that anybody can join that same meeting with me. So it's not going to be as restrictive to only one person being able to take notes and add issues and do different things within there. But everybody will be able to log in and easily add issues to the same list, and everybody's page will update real time with the same information. Same thing in that notes area. Same thing if I were to open up a specific issue and take notes on it. You're not going to see my mouse moving or me typing specifically, but as soon as the save goes, you'll see the new issue added, you'll see the new text added.
Yeah, most people don't recognize when the save happens, but it's happening constantly. So you get to the end of a sentence and it's already saved, and it will appear on everybody else's screen. So and a couple of great things about this. One, so just as people are creating new issues and stuff that they show up right away. And two, if you're doing Zoom meetings, everyone is, then you can limit the amount of bandwidth you've got going on with the meeting being distributed. You could just be watching 90 in the application, which is great fun.
Right. Yeah. So rearranging items, archiving items, marking them as done. So the first version that we release will let all of you guys join the same meeting. You can either copy the URL that you're on and send it to your team, or they'll see it as a join option on the meetings page. And then the second version that we're going to release is going to let you actually follow the presenter. So when I go to data, it'll say, hey, do you want to move to data? The presenter just moved there. So that'll be the next thing that we're throwing into the system. Just wanted to call it out that right away we wouldn't have a, you're specifically following me. If you wanted to do a follow the presenter, would probably suggest still sharing your screen in a Zoom like you might be now.
Yeah.
And Christine, a quick question about that that came through. Does each person on the team need to log into 90 individually?
Yes, so with this, you guys would all log into your account, and then it actually works where, I'll go back over here. When I join a meeting here, you would actually see up here in the top right, all of the people that have joined that meeting. So it is still on an individual user basis. There'll need to be a user in your account, and you would all log in separately, and you would just see everybody's names right here that had joined that meeting with you.
All right. And that's kind of part of that, some of the things that our people are looking for is meeting scores. Would they be able to enter this themselves? The sorting of for IDS, do all those kinds of things. So all those things are things that you'd be able to do without having to have the interaction, I guess. But
exactly, yeah. So enter your scores, rearrange your issues, lots of those things. And the idea is, we're bringing it to meetings first because that's where you guys are collaborating the most, obviously. But then moving forward, this is the same technology we would put on the accountability chart. So if I was on the accountability chart and Jim was in there too, if I added a seat, he would see it right away. So we're looking to bring this to the rest of the application. Meetings level 10 is really just the first place that we started. All right, jump back in here. So this is another one that's coming very soon because I just looked at it with the developer yesterday, but it's sending an issue to another team. So right now you click and you move an issue to another team. I'm moving it. It's not on our team anymore. But what this is going to let you do is maintain visibility on that first team while letting the second team solve it. So oops, there we go. So there'll be a new send button that comes up right next to the teams drop down. And when you send it to the other team, there'll be an issue sent to other teams section on team 1, and then team 2 can go in and type notes, put attachments, comments, whatever they want to do in order to solve that issue. And then they can just send it back to the original team. And then team 1 can mark it as done and archive it and have a conversation around it. So I do have a quick mock-up of what that looks like. So this first screen here shows you how there's that send button right next to teams. Then you pick the team that you want it to go to. So if we click to data upload, then we would see on our first team issues sent to other teams. Data upload team is where it went. So we can't do anything with it now. But then that second data upload team would see this, where they know it came from the leadership team. They can easily send it back, but they can go in and take notes and solve it before they do send it back. So it's just updating the notes area, the details area, so that you guys can collaborate back and forth on there.
that'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one. So next one is merging 2 issues. We obviously have keep and kill. So this is our solution for combine. So I haven't gone through with UX and figured out if it's a button or if it's just a simple drag and drop them on top of one another, but you're essentially going to be able to combine 2 issues so that it has title 1, title 2, description 1, description 2. So all those fields are being merged together. And then for things like attachments and comments, we'll just put them all into one main issue. So yeah, like I said, you're a solution for the keep, kill, combine. It'll be on short-term and long-term issues. So I'm sure very useful for those quarterly and annual sessions when you're looking to do some of those larger list cleanups that happen.
Yeah. It should happen, and they always do. And it's,
yeah, you got to do them, as painful as it is sometimes.
yes.
And then the last one I have here is issue voting. So this is another one that's going to be on short-term and long-term. So it's not just specific to the level 10 meeting, but it can help there. It'll be optional, so you don't have to use it, but it's just contributing to one of those ways that you can sort through your issues to prioritize them. So what's going to happen is that there'll be a settings button on the issues page, just like there's a settings button in a lot of places. And when you click that, you can assign a max number of votes per user. And then when those users are all logged into the same meeting, like what we're releasing, they can vote for the same issue 6 times, or I can vote for 6 different issues. So it just lets you have 6 votes, use them however you'd like to, and then you can press a vote button when everybody's done, and it'll sort the ones with the most votes all the way up to the top. So.
Yeah, no, things like this aren't things that are taught in a pure environment. So all that really means is you have to be really intentional about how you want to use these things and be really clear with everyone about what the intent is here and what the outcome is. So, I mean, just like we do with everything in EOS, I mean, to make it so that everyone is not really, you're trying to get to agreements from everybody and alignment from everybody about why we're doing it this way and what it means and how to stay involved, so that nobody comes away feeling like they didn't get it and they got short-shrifted. So
yeah,
be clear.
Yeah, so maybe not all teams would use it. Maybe people prefer that 1, 2, 3 score, or maybe they prefer the 5-to-1 method that Jim described, drag and drop. But it'll be a great solution for those people that do want to have the full team contribution in there and having the voting mechanism.
Getting everyone to a full understanding of what urgent important means is really what I want you to do.
Yes. So that takes me through everything. This is our final reminder that we'll go into IDS now. So keep sending your issue or your questions, issues in the chat. We'll go through and tackle those one by one. Happy to bring you guys up here and ask questions real time if it makes more sense. And then I will send a recording of this webinar. So just as a reminder, and there's a link to set up your free trial in case any of you guys are new to 90 and don't have an account yet. All right, let me jump out of here. Go back to 90. Did you put them on the same team as last time, Michelle?
Yep, in product office hours.
Nice.
Cool. All right, well, I'm guessing we'll have more. Maybe I'll refresh in a bit, but we'll just kind of go through. Won't worry about prioritizing them. I think we can probably get through everything.
All these out, sure.
Yeah. All right. My biggest challenge is serving as a Board of Trustees secretary, trying to serve both level 10 meeting navigator and capturing corporate meeting minutes in real time.
Yeah.
Jim, I'll let you take that one. Meeting minutes. That's not one I hear a lot anymore.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's okay to have multiple roles, and the person that's running the meeting, they aren't running the software. They should be just conducting the meeting, facilitating the people in the room, because that's what's really going on. The meeting is the facilitation of the people. The software is a way to manage what we're focusing on and how we capture information from that. So the scribe should be the person running the software, and you may or may not even want to have someone else is capturing minutes in that comment section or that notes section. Those are all available to people. You can have multiple people in the software for sure, looking at stuff. And as we add these additional, being in the meeting sections, it will make it that much easier. But my thought is don't be afraid to add more people to the mix, because you will not do a good job facilitating the meeting if you're also trying to do these other two things. Just it doesn't happen. Long before we had software, we had somebody else being the scribe for the meeting before, when someone else is running the meeting. So when I say running the meeting, I don't mean running the software. I specifically mean don't run the software. Don't be the person who's clicking and typing.
Yeah, two very different roles of being that leader and leading discussion and helping people stay on track versus the one that's actually typing and clicking and moving in here.
Yeah. So get somebody else involved, and it'll be better that way anyway. They'll catch things you wouldn't have caught.
Yeah, and then hopefully somebody in the chat reached out about if they are also running on Board of Trustees or committee meetings in here. I know Michelle's worked with a couple peer groups that use the software in their specific meetings. So there's definitely ways to customize this, and hopefully we can set up a user group community so you guys can, connect and chat about different strategies that you're using to use it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of meeting templates that you can customize at this point. I mean, there's the quarterly, the annual, the level 10, but in the other section, it's all of the meetings that we use for implementing. And if those will only get used once, so you can go back and customize those, even though it says focus day, make it at the board, your board of directors meeting or something like that. And you can add all the things in there that matter for that meeting. It can pull tools in from other parts of night, like the issues list. You always want to be looking at the issues list, right, as part of the meeting. But there's also, and I want to make this clear, when you have web resources, like something that lives on a web page, like it could be a Google Doc, or it could be, Salesforce or HubSpot. If you've got something like that, you put that link in there, and it brings that page up in the meeting. So maybe we get a chance to, Christine, we can actually show what that looks like in the meeting, because I think what maybe wasn't clear to everybody exactly what that ends up looking like. It's a pretty powerful feature that you're customizing meetings to do other things aside from pure EOS work.
Right.
It's invaluable.
Definitely. All right, so looks like they're getting set up with 90s, trying to start running on EOS, but getting into the busy season. Hooked on 90.
Yeah, I mean, so it's no accident why when we teach in Focus Day, one of the first thing we give everyone to go do, that everyone should start working on. One of the first thing is rocks. We teach everyone to pick up a rock and start learning what rocks look like, and then teach everyone the L10 level 10 meeting, so they can start running those right away. Those are the things that you're actively doing as an EOS company from the very first day. We teach everyone to say, hey, there's things that are part of your job that are in the accountability chart, but then there's these other things called rocks, the special projects that are the most important things for you to get done for the business to advance the business this quarter. And people have to learn a lot about making plans for the future and hitting those, creating those milestones, so they can break that down into steps to have to, because milestones too, you can share with other people. So if you're in charge of a rock, you're in charge of getting it done, not doing it. You've got a team below you that can help you, or other friends and family that love you. They can also take those things. So rocks and level 10 meetings would be my recommendation.
Definitely. And I also have a new user guide. So it gives them a quick, 5-minute video of, here's the things to look for in your account. And then here's the questions to ask your manager, your team, make sure that you're contributing the right way. So I'll post this in the chat area, but it's a great thing to send out to any new team members. We're trying to email it out as much as possible when somebody signs up, just to get them some context around how they can be most helpful and a good team player.
Awesome.
Throw that in the chat.
Yeah, let us know. So we're going to go through and we'll click them as solved. If you're not solved, put it back in the chat, and we'll do what we can to
back up,
get you to solved.
All right. How do you recommend setting up a scorecard for the leadership team versus other teams?
Yeah, well, scorecards, we like to jokingly say it can take 2 hours or 2 years to get it perfect. I mean, a couple of points on this. If you think about the leadership team and the accountability chart, there's three to seven people in the leadership team, more than likely, and they each represent a different section of the business, different, critical part of the business. And each of those should have 3 to 5, no more than that, measurables that help everyone understand whether or not that part of the business is running well. And we talk about this in our scorecard chat from a couple months ago, where the scorecard items, make sure that they're all forward-looking. This is the windshield, not the rear view mirror. So you should tell your bank about your past performance, because they want to see what happened last quarter. Yeah. These numbers should give you a pulse on what's happening, activity-based stuff that suggests to me that things aren't going well. So that's why I look at them and I go, on track, nothing to talk about. That's good. Everything's going great. Off track. Okay, let's talk about that, because this one's off track. 2, 7, 14 weeks from now, something's going to be bad. So I want to solve this right now. So ask yourself the question on a regular basis, and quarterly is a great time to do this. Does this number really mean anything to anybody? Do we know what it is? If you can't answer the question, if this number's wrong, I know what to do about it, then it doesn't belong on there.
Yeah, and I definitely understand how it can start to feel like there's too many numbers, but if you are running other team level 10 meetings, that's when you can start pushing things off of your
Push them down.
Yeah, pick up the most important ones and let your other teams handle all of your other measurables. So that's a great way to start delegating them out.
Yeah.
And this question's kind of related, it seems. List of effective and commonly used data. I'm assuming that means commonly used scorecard metrics.
Do we have an article on this? This is a really hard one. I mean, we have in the, I think it's in the quarterly numbers. We actually have some suggested numbers that are common quarterly things people look at. But here's the thing, that there are industry standard numbers you might go look at, and at some point maybe we'll publish something on this. But it still ends up being really mostly about the snowflake nature of your business. Which are the most important ones for you? Because you can be, I've got a number of retail businesses that are my clients, and they all have different numbers about what's really critically important for determining the future. Because if you think about what's most important to them is either share of wallet or frequency of visit, and the things that drive those things are different for every one of these retailers. So.
So on the quarterly, like you said, we do have some default ones. So you'll see just like this little 90 mark on your leadership team. If you go to quarterly, they're just there by default. And it's a lot of like financial based things. And then you have your org checkup scores that you can enter there too. Right. But at one point we were working on putting together a recommended sheet, like based on industry or job and different things like that, and kind of got moved to the back burner. So it would definitely be a good question for our data team if it's something that we can create a recommended.
This would be a great thing. Reach out to one of the coaches or implementers in the universe, and they can help you facilitate through that. I mean, I've done it where it just as a help first. I'll help people kind of frame up for them how to start getting going with that. And if there's a session involved at some point, that's fine too. But yeah, I think it's a let go of the notion that there's some other place that knows what the scorecard should be aside from you. It's not true. You're still going to have to rationalize it and get comfortable with it and be confident that it actually tells you what you need to know.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Explain what would make a company rock, and then why it shows up twice.
Yeah, this is probably going into depth at some point when we talk about rocks. Here's the thing. So company rocks are the ones that show up on your VTO. They're the ones you want to tell the entire company, these are the priorities for this quarter. These are the most important things for us to get done this quarter if we're going to be on track to get to our 1-year goals and our 3-year picture and our 10-year target. And that's really the point, is that you want to be, this is about communicating to the organization what's most important. Okay, and there's also to some extent amount of visibility even to the leadership team. And I gave one of my teams a browbeating last week because they let the visionary take a rock and then they didn't all step in to make sure that rock got done. And they called it a company rock. The company rocks, by definition, are the most important things for the company to get done this quarter. Don't let those not get done. Let other things not get done. But you're all looking at each other and agreeing, this is what's most important for the company. So you all better be really laser focused on making sure, one, I really know whether it's getting done. So if there's no milestones in there, you don't see any progress, like, hey, are you sure it's done? Are you certain it's done? I'd like to see some milestones, my friend, because you're all on the hook for that. Loving each other is about getting to the point where you're supporting each other to get the right things done. So company rock should get everyone's attention. And if there's multiple people that can take on milestones in there, that's even better.
Yeah, delegate out those individual tasks. And the company rock is also, those are the rocks that we share in the state of the company meeting after each quarterly. So that's really what we want to communicate to the rest of the company about what we're really trying to focus on too.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's on the VTO that everyone should be able to see, and it's communicated to everybody that these are the biggest priorities for the quarter.
Mm-hmm. When would you recommend having the quarterly meeting? So this is what we're going through. We have an overlap with finishing up the quarters rocks, and you need to come up next with next quarters already.
Yeah. So, and this happens. I mean, scheduling, snafus happen. It isn't perfect. And EOS is pretty lenient in allowing these things to happen. People ask about this about annuals all the time. Should I do my annual before I've got my annual numbers or after? And here's the thing. You mostly know by mid-December, you know what your numbers are going to be for the most part. And we ask the question quite often with rocks, hey, is it going to take a week or 2 weeks to get this done? Because if you know exactly what it's between you and done looks like and can say, yeah, I'm going to focus on that, then we're going to give you done at the meeting. We'll look at each other and I make my teams ask each other, hey, this person's now said they only need to do that one thing to get this rock done. Do we call it done? And if you do, you check it done. Trust each other, and at least that much. Because if you get the same thing with numbers, hey, we don't have the final numbers, but we're at this as of this date. Hopefully you've been tracking it the whole freaking time anyway. Do we call our numbers, did we win the quarter or did we have a learning quarter? And you as a mature team should be able to sort that out and give each other enough trust to go, we're a week away, we're 2 weeks away. So it's not a religious belief, a religious holiday. It's just you trying to do a good job managing your business. And the best thing to do is not give yourself a break. It's just like say, yep, didn't get it, or I did get it, and then make the plan for next quarter anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself about, all right, we got to have our quarterly on March 31st. We have our quarterly coming up on April 19th. So don't feel like you have to do it the exact day that it ends. Work with the schedule, try and get within 2 to 3 weeks.
We moved it. It wasn't the original date. So
yeah, it's going to happen as long as you have that agreement of rocks will be done by this day and we'll create new rocks on the same day. I feel like you're probably good.
Cool.
All right, cascading message, what actually happens? So I will show you in this meeting because it looks like we actually have some. So when a cascading message is sent to your team, I'll go to the headlines area. So here's a headline, we're in the product office hours meeting. And then all of these are cascading messages that were sent to us from the leadership team. So when I go in and click this cascade button and then select leadership team here, then exactly what we see here shows up on the leadership team, where they would see new one, they would see from the product office hours team, just like we're seeing demo from the leadership team. So
cool.
Hopefully that adds clarity. I know I didn't show that earlier. And then these work the same way as the headlines, where you can open them up, you can talk about them, take notes, and then just check them off as soon as you guys have gone through and discussed them.
Yeah, if you're going to cascade a message, make sure you put something in the description so it's really super clear to everybody. Think about what the audience is going to, and make sure that they don't have to scratch their heads about it.
Definitely. All right, I'll just stay in this meeting actually.
There you go.
All right. Experienced where companies have implemented the level 10 board. Oh, this was very similar to the question earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in some version of the level 10 for sure. I mean, it's level 10 is a great format for keeping everybody focused, hand in hand, left hand knowing what the right hand's doing, on the same page, and holding people accountable, which quite often with boards and committees is the bigger issue. It's like, what did you agree you're going to get done for this next week? And slowly over time, people get better and better at realizing, oh, I can take 2 to-dos from this committee for this week. Oh, can you take this as a to-do? Yeah, but I won't have it till next week or the week after that. And our to-do function can handle that. So when does it, yeah, I can do that, but when does it have to be due? By May 14th. Great. Give me a May 14th deadline, and I will get it done. So it's great for to-dos, and certainly for rocks. I mean, more than likely committees always have things they're working on together, and organizing those rocks, distributing those milestones, because you can have more than 13. You can have how many milestones can you have, Christine? Infinite, right?
As many as you want.
We've never found out. So someone go challenge that. Find out how many milestones we could possibly have. I mean, distribute them among everybody, and that's how you can manage collaboration, because it does email people out if you have that turned on. There's a lot of collaboration and coordination of human energy built into the level 10 meeting. It's why we teach it right away. It makes a huge impact.
Yeah, and I would say if you're looking to run a peer group or committee or anything like that, you can create a new company and have that running separately within 90. I would say reach out to Michelle if you're interested in doing that. She's kind of the expert because she's talked to so many different people about how they're doing it. So definitely reach out and we can help out with that.
Yep, Michelle, you've got some, got some best practices with that, I'm sure, don't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully I answered this one with my big
Soon.
feature update. Yes.
Really soon.
Yeah, and you can see the account I'm using right now actually has a couple beta features in it. So if somebody else joined my meeting, then I see my little icon right here and they would pop up right next to me. So that's how it'll work.
Well, Michelle, you can get in the meeting, can
You could if you wanted to.
you?
Send
I
you
hope
the
she
link.
wants to.
Let's see. That's true. We could have been doing this, so you could have been popping issues in. That would have been a great idea.
Next time
Yeah.
it'll be totally working and you'll totally do it that way.
Yeah. All right. For the issues, use comment section. Oh, so this is a good question. You know, it's up to you, personal preference. I see a lot of people taking notes during the meeting in the description area because these typically are like the details that you want on the to-do, that you want front and center. It's about the solution. The comment section I end up using a lot outside of meeting time. So, I log in and I see this issue on the list and I want to write something down because I remembered, X about it. And then that way it's date and time stamped and people can see that I already contributed to the issue. But when we're all in the meeting together, I typically use the description area. So I don't know if you see clients doing anything else, Jen.
Well, the only thing is, I've seen one company have the rule that only the person that owns the issue can write in the description section and everybody else can add comments.
Interesting.
It's kind of like a way of thinking about it in terms of just any threading thing that goes on.
Yeah.
And you have to, my guidance is always to look at your tool set and be specific and intentional about how you intend the tool set to be used. This goes for how you use Slack in the company versus email, how you use 90. The more you find stuff and when you have these questions, more than likely we don't have a specific intended use. We're opening it up because we have multiple use cases available and we'll share those with you whenever we can. But
right.
If you're going to start using it, be intentional about it. Share with the rest of your team. Hey team, I think we should start using it for this because it solves this problem.
Yeah, the full team buy-in there is the most important part, whatever you decide.
Whatever you decide. Yeah, just, because we see extraordinary uplift on communications when people have communication strategies within the business, when they know, okay, that's something that belongs in Slack and everyone just knows it, then that's where it's in Slack for that.
Yeah. Will we go over accountability chart or process? I might drop this down to the bottom and just do it quickly at the end.
Yep.
So we make sure we answer all of our meeting questions for today.
Do an upcoming future meeting at some point where we'll focus on that, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I tried to add it as a polling thing. I don't know if I use Zoom webinars right. But I would love to hear what you guys want covered in future sessions.
I think we had a survey tool inside 90.
If only. So yeah, quarterly conversations, quarterly sessions, accountability chart, process, like whatever you guys want us to cover, let us know. I don't have a set schedule through the rest of the year. I'm kind of just picking up whatever I feel like we're getting a lot of questions in client success about, or if we have a great new feature that's coming out, like multiple people joining. I want to make sure I highlight that. So please let us know what you want us to cover.
Cool.
Can you recap the meaning of 1 through 5? So 5 is typically must solve today, like urgent. Oh yeah, good idea. 5 must solve today. 4 is usually would like to solve today. 3, what would you say?
Yeah, just it definitely this quarter, maybe next week, so it's kind of like, you've got, still has some urgency to it. one is not urgent and may come up better later or something like that. So you want to keep it on this. To you, it feels like maybe it's going to be a this quarter issue, but I really can't be more specific about it than that. So
Right.
Because remember, if it doesn't feel like it's going to be anything we have to worry about this quarter, push it to long-term issues. To some extent, like the one is something that we put in there for the visionaries who always are so optimistic about all things we can get done this quarter, then we just have to tamper them down a little bit. We'll put it on there, but make it a 1.
Yeah.
Because these are LTI candidates is what they really are. And also know that it's really okay if you've got 5s and you get 1. We've had this, right, Christine and Michelle? We just had one of these where we had a 5. We had 1 5 we got done in a very long session, but it was the most important 5. It was the right 5 to take care of. Now I've got 3 or 4 more 5s, right? And so what do I need to do about those? Can they wait till next week, or do I have to do some other meeting on those? But gosh, man, it's really okay to get to end that meeting on time and go, we only got 1 issue, but it was the most important one. You still get a 10 for the meeting, man. That's victory. That's victory. You solved the problem.
Yeah, spent like 50 minutes on that 5, and I still gave it a 10. It's still very valuable discussion.
Yeah, and we really got there. We dug in and didn't give up until we really got there. So.
All right, if you customize the agenda, so this depends on what you're doing in the custom section. So you could pull in a Google Doc or I don't know, like any other sort of system that gives you an iframe friendly link. So you would be adding content on that page. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, I think some people just aren't aware of the magic of iframes. So.
I think, Michelle, you have it on focus day. I think you added a bunch of stuff. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So yeah, here's a couple great examples. So one is like just a Google Doc. So this would just be whoever has access to the Google Doc can type in here.
And the thing is, it totally works. So whatever the application is, it's really running. It's just showing it in this one environment.
Exactly. Yeah, it's real life in here. So this is concept board. I think a lot of coaches use this when they're doing sessions.
That's right. There's a couple. There's that one, and what's the other one, Michelle?
Captivo cameras working here.
Captivo is the other one that people use.
Yeah. So here's what the heck is level 10 meeting blog. So.
Yeah, these are in the meeting, switching between them. So
yeah,
pretty handy stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, you can still edit it. It's the real web page working within here. It's just embedded into the meeting. So.
But then if you were to add in like a static section, like the check-in and change that particular section wouldn't then be editable in the meeting. I don't know if you want to show that too.
Right. So if you're just doing this rich text editor and adding text here or maybe images or things like that, this is just there for each meeting. So if there's questions you ask and just want rhetorical responses to, if there's anything where you just want the information there but don't need it to be interacted with, that's really what you'll use this section for. But if you've got anything living that you want to pull in, make sure you use this. And we do have the restriction that it has to be HTTPS, and it does need to be an iframe friendly link, and that's for security reasons. We can't just let any site come in here if they don't have the iframe friendly specifications. I would reach out to that provider, and Michelle's been really good about even working with some individually that coaches wanted to use. But yeah, it's just security. We don't want anybody hacking.
And if none of that makes any sense to you, just reach out to us so we can help you navigate what all that means.
Yeah.
Christine's a little too geniusy for me some days.
Yeah. All right. I don't know where I am.
For all the high quick starts out there, just reach out to us.
I guess I can just apply. Oh, well. All right.
All right.
Product office hours.
Oh, it's so easy to navigate between different sections of the business.
Yeah.
Notice that?
There we go. So you will get notified, definitely with the multiple people joining a meeting via email, because it is such a large feature that everybody has been asking about. So definitely don't worry about that. I would also encourage you to subscribe to our product updates. And so you can access those if you actually click on this bottom right button and then scroll to the bottom here, click on this product updates page, and it'll bring you to an area where you can subscribe. So whenever like the littlest thing comes out, we'll post it in there. So it's a really easy way to get notified. Other than that, we usually just do like quick in-app pop-ups and things like that. Having individual personal discussions during IDS.
Yeah. Well, IDS is hard. Don't pretend that it's not.
Yeah.
It's just really hard, and it's really hard on when you're talking about personnel issues. Sometimes you do have to IDS them, but the hard part is in the discuss part. Well, both. Every section is hard. Identify is identifying really what the problem is, and we like to talk about the people analyzer as being the core tool in the EOS world to go to really understand what the core issues. Hey, someone, when we ask the question about the accountability chart, we say, are any RPRS issues on the accountability chart? If there is, yes. Okay, we put that seat on the accountability on the chart into IDS. Okay, what's the key issue? Well, let's go to the people analyzer. There's a person, GWC their role, are they a core values fit? It's usually one of those two things. If it's more complicated than that, trying to get the person who raised the issue to be very specific about what their issue is. It can be hard, but if you got to push them to the point where everyone's really in agreement, that sounds like the core issue. When you go to the discuss section, this is where we really get into danger around personnel issues, because people will have opinions, and opinions don't belong in IDS. You can have firmly held opinions, but the better way to do that, this is better for parenting and for personal interactions and for IDS, is if you have something about someone that you think that you have concern about, try to find 3 concrete examples of where you think the issue lies. So quite often we're talking about someone who doesn't really meet the core values and is below the bar. And we do come up with this with quarterly conversations. Give me 3 examples. Give them 3 concrete examples. Hey, when you did this, that says to me that you're not really living this core value. You did this, you did this, and you did this. And now we have something we can talk about. And forcing everybody in your IDS section to have data or experiences, specific experiences, not feelings. Everyone has feelings. I know you have feelings. Feelings aren't facts. Don't let feelings be part of what drives your discussion. That's not, suck all the drama out of your IDS. That should always, if people start having really big feelings, help them get to the place where they don't have big feelings. They're able to talk calmly, right? If getting that place of love and trust in your leadership team is critically important, because that way you can get things done. When you get people in big emotional times, sometimes you just have to put it off, because until you can get to calmness, you can't actually have a good discussion.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to have the personnel discussions during IDS, otherwise, when are you going to have them? A lot of times, yeah,
I mean, someone go.
It's got to happen. If it's a bigger thing and you want to wait till quarterly where you've really got everybody in the right mindset, maybe that's maybe something to consider, and you're looking at the accountability chart and doing a little bit more in depth. But yeah, you got to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also on the leadership team, you probably know this. If you're talking about personnel issues, you can make them private issues that don't show up for anybody else. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, when
LTI
you're on the
or
long-term
issues.
list.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So make sure if person information in there, make sure that you've done a good job of making sure that that's hidden from anybody that's not on the team.
Where do you make them private? I just saw that pop up. So on your long-term list, when you click on it, where's my private toggle?
Leadership team, go to leadership team.
Oh yeah, of course. So it's not on the sub teams. Thank you, Jim. I can't believe I forgot that. That's because your sub teams, you don't share the VTO. But on your leadership team, when we go to an issue within here, you will have a public toggle. And so that if you are sharing your VTO with all of your teams, which is a setting that you can turn on, you have to specifically say, I want to share this issue. So by default, they all are private, don't worry, but you're specifically saying, hey, I'm okay if everybody in the company knows about these specific issues, and that's when you would turn them on to be public.
Yeah. And we do that so there's no hesitation to putting it on the issues list. If you've got a question, I mean, even if it's like, hey, I just need to feel better about this person, and we've done that, then it defaults to private. And if you want it public, it's, and you do want to have some issues public because it's part of your VTO. It's part of how you're showing that, hey, there's things coming and but that's a different communication strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good questions. These are all good questions, aren't they?
Yeah, I love them. I know we're going a bit over time, but I will send out the recording. And I think we're almost done here. So we'll definitely wrap up soon.
Okay.
What? Probably conclude, right? You're looking over your to-dos, you're looking over your cascading messages. Am I understanding the question right?
I don't know. I mean, so whoever asked this one, if you want to raise your hand, if you're still here, and we can ask some clarifying questions so we make sure we understand the issue.
Yeah. So follow-up information, I feel like, is hey, we're recapping, we're making sure we're on the same page with what we're all doing. So you'll definitely handle a lot of that in the conclude area. And then at the same time, if you need to share anything out with other teams, you can use that cascading messages in order to do that.
Yeah, and two other things I teach my clients with issues. If there is something you're going to do about it, but you want to make sure you bring it back next meeting, you could just leave it on there and write follow up from this to do, and with all the data still there, all the discussion, or make it what we call a work in progress, WIP. So I've taught all my clients, we do this at 90, things that are just like, hey, we want to just reconsider this every week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually one of the issues that we ended up really digging into and spending a lot of time on. It was one of those works in progress. It just came to the point where we had to get to solve. And it was a big, hairy issue. So, but leaving it on there so we can keep adding notes, think about it every time. What else do we know about this as we're trying to get to a solve? These are kind of like the 201 versions of this stuff. When you're first starting out, try to stay as pure as possible. But these are lots of ways of solving these kinds of problems. Like, hey, this is an issue that's going to keep coming up. The team needs to reconsider it next week. Leave it on the list, and just with the knowledge that someone needs to bring something back to report on.
Yeah, we'll sometimes mark it with WIP for work in progress because it's like, listen, there's no way to avoid that. We're going to have to review this the next 2 meetings. So let's leave it on here and just add some notes and get into the details.
And leave it at the top, top of the list. However you're doing your sorts, make sure that all your WIPs gets considered every week. Is there any more advance on this? Any more information you need to put in here? It's like, yeah, I had this conversation. I had this. Okay, are we ready to solve yet? No. Okay, move on.
All right. Customizing the level 10, adding a section, does it get included as part of the clock countdown? Yes.
Still does.
So you assign a specific time to it. You go to the section just like normal, and it's counting for you just like normal. So you still get the 10 seconds to go. It's going to let you know. It'll still get included in that recap email. So it functions the same way as a normal section would.
That's awesome. Yeah, very handy for those of you, because it can be hard to stay on track.
Yeah. All right.
That would be the other job you'd have to give everybody, is someone else is watching the time, and that's so now 90's watching the time. It's Christine watching the time for you every
yeah,
week.
I know. Not a fun job to have. Let the computer do it.
Yeah.
Great. So I will show you the scorecard because I have the special account. So the question was, you had trailing 4 and 13 weeks in your last webinar that you talked about. We are ready to release it. So how it works, I'll go to the leadership team because I've got way more data on here. But essentially you have a new tab, trailing 4 and 13 weeks. When you go there, it pulls in your weekly data and automatically calculates it for you real time, which it's doing right now. So I don't go in and edit these, but I can see what the goal and the actual is. So I have 4 weeks of data within here. And then if I scroll down, I can do the same thing and see 13 weeks of data. So it's giving you more of that month and the quarter view for your weekly tracking. So as you can see, we do have it done. We are waiting to release it. We need to put it behind a couple toggles because it's an add-on feature, obviously completely free. But the function's there, it's all ready to go. So fingers crossed, it'll be extremely soon.
Christine, why is it trailing 4 and trailing 13 versus during months and quarters?
Because you can't really take 4 weeks and make it equal a month. So you'll never get a perfect January. You'll never get a perfect April. We did have a perfect February this February, which was very exciting. But you're never going to have that line up with your weeks, and everybody's tracking them on different days. Maybe you're tracking Wednesday to Tuesday. So this is a great solution to let you see the longer term view without restricting you and giving you funky data where it's like not gonna exactly equal January or February, as you'll see with the weekly start and stops. You'll hardly ever be like perfectly on the 1st and 31st.
Yeah, and the thing about this too is this is a common approach to calendaring for retail, and franchisers, because they don't because they want to be able to compare the numbers every 4 weeks. And that way it's apples to apples every 4 weeks. You still have holidays in there, but and we give you tools in here to manage against that. But you can really compare this 4 weeks versus weeks 4 through 8 this year versus weeks 4 through 8 last year, and it really means something versus all the other things that move around. So yeah, like I know one of my clients is a franchisor for a famous donut franchise, and they have not 12 months but 13 periods a year for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
That way you compare period 4 versus this year versus period 4 last year, and it perfectly lines up.
Smart. Yeah, so this isn't out right now, but I'm hoping to get it to everybody by the end of the month. So email me if you would like more details on that, or you're getting antsy. I don't know if there's anything I can specifically do, but I know I've got some people in my inbox that I'm like, I'll email you the second it comes out. So I did change my name in here so that you can see my email pretty easily, Christine at 90.
Nice.
All right, but yeah, pretty much all of those scorecard updates that we talked about last time are ready to go. The goal forecasting's there, waiting to be released. Sorry, not there right now. And some of those other things. So definitely excited to get that out to you guys. All right, and then I think we got a couple other feature requests on here. Yeah, this was a good one. This one's just about sorting the comments. So right now when you go in here and type things, it's all date time based, but you'll notice as I go through, it's putting the most recent at the bottom. So I've definitely heard this before where it'd be great to flip that and let people say, no, I want most recent at the top. So I've got that on my list. I think it's a great request. So definitely hear you there.
Cool. See, our users are so smart.
They are very smart. It's like they use the system,
Yeah.
So MFA is another one where I'm testing it in beta right now. So it's right around the corner. There's so many things that are just on the tip of being launched. We're changing the system. So there'll be a couple security changes as far as login goes. We'll email you guys about those. Most people won't need to change their password, but there might be some situations where it's not secure enough. So that could happen when we release MFA. And when we release MFA, you'll also have the option to sign in via Google or Facebook if you like to. So MFA will be there to turn on for the user. You could require it as a company. So if you required everybody in your account to use that multi-factor authentication, you could. And then you could also use Google or Facebook sign in. So all of that coming very soon. And when I say very soon, that's probably like next 2 weeks. So I just finished writing out all of the communication documentation. So hopefully we're ready to roll that out. All right. How much information of the VTO should be shared with all teams?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
That's really the point. I mean, you really want, when you get to a place, and it's one of the questions we ask when we're during implementation is, are you ready to start rolling this out to the rest of the company? Because the whole part of the point of the VTO is this is a version of yourself that you want to share with everybody, so you can get everybody rowing the same direction. You can solve all the communication problems we've ever had. Everyone really knows where we're going and how we're going to get there, and can align behind it. I mean, if you've got trust issues with people in your company, that's an RPRS problem. You better add that. I don't trust people to do the right thing if I give them all this information. Those people don't belong in your company.
Yeah.
Fire them right now.
And when you're on your leadership team, this is an all or nothing scenario. So it's not like I'm going through and picking and choosing which sections I want to share. When I toggle on share VTO with all teams, it literally means the whole vision and traction page. I don't think SWAT shares at this point. But when I toggle it on, like you can see, we have all 8 of these issues on the leadership team right now. But if I go to product office hours and I view the VTO, I only have these 2 issues that I'm actually looking at. So again, it gets back into, we didn't make all of them public, so you do have some restriction there, but as far as the different sections goes, you're automatically cascading everything. So
yeah, I mean, and if you want to reach out and have, I'm happy to help first conversation about what sections you think you want to keep from people. If you want to put a follow-up in, we can have a conversation about, hey, but I'm not comfortable sharing this section. Let's talk about it. But ultimately, it's a bad state. It's just a problem, and it will drill down to what the real issue is. But quite often it's trust issues with the rest of people in the organization, and that really it tends to suggest that you've got some people you probably don't love. So.
All right. So last 2, and then we'll let you guys go. Members of the leadership team who have specific one-to-one meeting. So I guess this is kind of speaking to the same page a bit. So they're having a one-on-one meeting, right? And they want to review certain rocks. So I think I'm interpreting this question correctly. I think you guys should derail me if you think I'm not. But on each of your rocks, if you are running a same page meeting or any other type of meeting, you would essentially create a team in the system to run that one-on-one. And then with a rock that you own, you could put it on another team. So you have this add to other teams option on rocks. And so I could say, all right, I want it on these 4 that I'm a part of. So you would be able to see that rock in every single place instead of just one.
Yeah, and it's a great, we've done this within 90s, matter of fact. We've had, a number of projects. We created, a special team for that project. It has people from different parts of the organization. That team has a rock that they're all working on. They're all collaborating on. They've all taken milestones to get that done. And it's a great way of utilizing the tool to kind of organize that stuff. And we have a regular meeting that we go through whether we got our to-dos done, and we're holding each other accountable and towards progressing to the end of that rock. So yeah, it's a great use of the tool.
All right. And then accountability chart and process. I'll show these really quick and do my quick 1-minute version of each. And then I know Michelle's been sending out the schedule a call with us link. Please do that if you want to dive into anything else specific. It's really helpful. You can talk about your company specifically instead of just getting this general information. So happy to dive into these a little bit further.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the accountability chart, you can see here, I actually removed the visionary seat. So you do have some flexibility here. I'll go ahead and re-add it back. But essentially you create your own structure. So if I wanted to add a seat, I use this plus sign. If I want to expand into different areas, I have this expand button. And so you're building out your different structure of your company. I'll add a seat below here. Just say it's a new seat, create it. Now it goes into this level. You can put people in these seats. So usually what happens is, you got your department heads up here. You probably just have one person. And then let's say this is a sales team. Maybe this is a, account executive. You probably have 10 of those in your company. You can put them all in the same seat. So it makes it easy to kind of condense things down. If people have the same roles and responsibilities, you don't need to feel like you need to keep building out your chart just to have extra seats, one per person. You can consolidate it down and make sure it's just pure structure and not based on people.
Yeah, that's what we say, structure first, people second. And it's important to try, I mean, as much as you possibly can, remember, this is a communication and organization tool. So we're trying to communicate to everybody so that it's really clear to them what they're accountable for. And know that every one of these bullet points underneath these seats should relate to some processes and some measurables, right? So having a thought about measurables coming really out of those, how do we keep track of whether this thing is getting done the right way, done the right number of times, done with the level of quality that we want. Those are all natural things that you'd create measurables out of. And maybe one or two of those would come up on a scorecard somewhere as well.
Yeah. And then when you look at process, there's really 3 layers to this page. What we're looking at right now are the company's core processes. You can add as many of these as you want to. If you have an account, it comes with 6 by default. And then essentially you're going into each section and looking at the steps. So now I just clicked on the expand button. We're in the HR core process, and we can see here's the way that we hire, the way that we onboard, the way we get feedback. And so we can document things in these different tiles. If I click on the view details button, there's, I'll put links in there, what the team members are that are involved in this process. Maybe this is some sort of checklist. Maybe I've got videos I want people to watch in here. So you can put as much detail as you need to in these individual tiles. But something like hiring, you might think, hey, I want to put the general idea and goals that we're trying to achieve and thoughts that we want to have when we are hiring. But there's so much more. So you can go down into one more layer of sub steps. And so this is where you can see, all right, within hiring, we have a specific way we look for people, that we screen, that we interview. And so you can have the details all within here too. So this tool is not a, oh, I'm 50% through the hiring process. You're not really like taking action or doing things within here. You're documenting everything, having everything in one place. So if you are going off to LinkedIn and HubSpot and Salesforce and all of these different systems, this is the one where you can have the links in one place and have the source of truth in the company.
That's great stuff. And to that point, one of the things my clients do is they have the documentation around a common onboarding rock, right? So, one of the steps is assign the onboarding rock to the new people, and these are all the steps in the onboarding rock, and then those just become all of the milestones for that onboarding.
Love it. Yeah, you can turn those into to-dos, issues, rocks, and then you have all the data right there that's consistent for anybody that's joining.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we've gone through everything.
Be able to turn one of those things into a rock with milestones.
Yeah, we should add a milestone where you can just preset them up.
Yeah.
30 days in, they need to do this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're through. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. No, we went a little bit over, but please reach out if you need anything else. We'll be running these once a month. So thank you, Jim, for joining me again.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see everybody next time.